There's a myth going round town that when you get older you just sit down and start rocking, just rocking. In a way that's true, if you know what I mean. Just take a look at the senior scene. Well, it's rocking.
My name is Paula Miller. I'm a cardiologist. I've been doing this now for women's heart disease for a very long time. And I hope to leave with my legacy this Women's Heart Symposium.
Exercise, physical activity and exercise. That's kind of my passion. One of my subset passions is to talk to folks who want to start exercising, are exercising, doing some things, maybe not meeting their goals, figuring out where they are and trying to get them to start where they are and be successful at adding these good things to your life. So that's why I kind of picked this topic. Physical activity and exercise, do we need both? Yes. They're used interchangeably. Unfortunately, a lot of times with a lot of the literature that comes out, so I hope to be able to give you an idea of what the difference is, how you can incorporate both, and kind of straighten things out a little bit. Exercise is not new, as you can see. I work with very young folks at cardiac rehab. I know a lot of them think that I actually was compadre of Plato. I was not. But Plato, this is early 300s BC. Lack of activity destroys good condition of every human being, while movement and methodical physical exercise save it and preserve it. They knew a long time ago that we needed to keep moving. So let's figure out how we can. But the definitions of physical activity and exercise, maybe that can start with helping you to kind of see the difference in the two. Physical activity, that's any movement that involves the contraction of your muscles. Any movement. So everything we do when you move, scratching your face, doing anything like that, that's considered physical activity technically. So physical activity, is this physical activity? That's a clicker, that's changing the channel. It is, but it's not much. Is this physical activity? It is, technically. It is physical activity. But you get what you pay for, what you put into it, you get out of it. So that is physical activity. What exercise, that's very, very specific. That is a form of physical activity. So that's why they're interchanged sometimes. They say the word physical activity. But exercise is supposed to be planned, structural, repetitive, and intentional movement. It means you, on purpose, you went out to try to improve your health or your fitness. So it's something that you didn't do by accident. You did it on purpose. And there's certain levels of that physical activity that you have to attain in order for it to be called exercise. So, is all exercise physical activity? Yes. Is all physical activity exercise?
No.
No. But everything counts. It's just a matter of how much you want it to count what you need to do. Thankfully, jiggling is a physical activity. So it is physical activity. I wish I could change this to get fit. What I would put there is if you would like to have if you would like to successfully add health, physical activity and exercise to your everyday life and have that lifestyle forever and ever and ever, then you need to start where you are. Fortunately, that was part of Coach Hatchell's talk too. You've got to start where you are. Not where the person next to you is, not where someone who we're seeing on the Olympics is, not where, start where you are. So hopefully you can kind of in the back of your mind start analyzing and thinking, where am I and how can I get started? The CDC, the Department of Health and Human Services, the American Heart Association, the American College of Sports Medicine, the American Cancer Society, all of those folks have kind of agreed on guidelines for physical activity, exercise, that will make substantial health benefits. And that's why we need to make sure we either stay healthy or get healthy and do it for the rest of our lives. How much do we need to do? Do at least 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity exercise, and we'll talk about intensity in just a minute, or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise. At least as the week goes on, they'd like you to spread it out, not do it all at one time. So it needs to be spread out, and you need to do at least 10 minutes at a time. If you already do that, and you still haven't reached your health or fitness goals, then you might need to increase that to 300 minutes a week if you're doing moderate intensity exercise, or 150 minutes of vigorous. So these are all just kind of guidelines. It doesn't mean you have to do this, but just in the back of your mind. 150 minutes, if you break that down to, let's say you want to exercise or do your activity for 30 minutes, 5 days a week, you got it. That's all there is there. You can break it up into different groups, and we'll talk about that too. If you're not doing anything, we'll kind of go from there. If you're doing a lot, we'll go from there as well. What you also have to include, according to the CDC and the Department of Health and Human Services and Coach Hatchell and myself, is strength training activities. You need to use strength training activities using the major muscle groups: arms, legs, back, shoulders, torso, core. Those need to be done at least twice a week in order to get some benefit there. I always say two of my favorite two are, don't forget, flexibility and balance. So those sometimes can be incorporated into the same thing. If you're doing a yoga class, let's say, but you need to incorporate those as well. So I told you we're talking about moderate and vigorous activity. What is that? Sometimes people go, I'm not sure do I need to check my heart rate? Do I need to do this? You really don't. If you're doing moderate intensity exercise, if you're a numbers person, let's think on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is when you're doing nothing, 10 is you're about to fall out. You don't need to do that. Moderate intensity exercise is on scales of between 5 and 6. If you're not a numbers person, if you're somebody that has to kind of think of, well, what am I doing when I'm exercising? Moderate as long as you can talk but can't sing. And that doesn't mean you can't carry a tune. That means you can't sing a song. So if you can walk and talk at the same time, you're at a moderate level. So that's fairly comfortable for most people. Vigorous. What does vigorous mean? That's on that 0 out of 10 scale. That's a 7 or an 8. That's pretty high up there. That means you can't say more than a few words. That means if you're exercising, you're going like this. Not everybody should or needs to do vigorous exercise. Moderate is fine. If you're someone who wants to do that vigorous, your goals are such that you'd like to, that's fine, but this is what this means. I also have some samples down here. These are just samples. This one says moderate is walking briskly at about 3 miles an hour. For some people, 3 miles an hour is vigorous. So don't take that really literally. It's just walking. For some folks that are really good swimmers, lap swimming is moderate. So it can be either way depending on where you are, once again. This is another way to see, kind of decide how your intensity is. And this gives you numbers, it gives you pictures, and it gives you statements. This is called a rate of perceived exertion chart. And I like to kind of keep this in mind. I like the little pictures myself. I'm kind of a picture person. So 5 and 6 is moderate. And that's where the guy, he's a little smiley, his tongue might be hanging out just a little bit, but it says increased effort, slightly breathless. I can still talk and I know I'm doing something, and moderately tired. Whereas the 7 and 8, that was a vigorous. You're working hard, can't really talk easily, and the guy's kind of standing there like this. So I like the smile with the tongue hanging out. For those of you, if there's some in here that really haven't been doing any exercise, it might be that you're not really physically active yet, until after today. Think of this 3 and 4 up here where the little guy's smiling and I'm doing okay. I'm going to talk about that too, because that's not something that you just throw out the window. Think about the light effort. I'm starting to feel a little bit tired, but genuinely, you can do it. So think of that as well. So if we follow what the Department of Health and Human Services, the CDC, the American Heart Association, if we follow the guidelines that they said the 150 minutes of moderate exercise or on down, there are some benefits. There's like a laundry list of benefits of exercise. But I'm going to there are just a few up here. Number 1 is weight control. That doesn't mean necessarily always losing. It means maybe maintaining. And some people actually could gain with that. So it depends on what once again, start where you are. It combats lots of things. The main one being the reason we're talking about it, decreases cardiovascular risk. It does combat hypertension, boosts the HDLs, that's the good guys, decrease the triglycerides. It helps prevent or manage stroke, diabetes, depression, some cancers, arthritis, falls. Improves your mood, so that makes us less cranky. We're happy, everything's better. Boosts your energy, like Coach Hatchell says. Just a little bit sometimes can help, especially if you're down and out. You can certainly do just a little bit there. Promotes better sleep. My two favorites is it can be fun and social. There's times where folks, the only reason they go out and exercise is because they're going to see their buddies out there. If you're by yourself most of the time, or you just really enjoy talking to people, that might be you. Everybody needs to kind of keep those aspects in their lives. And who does not want to improve your quality of life and prolong independence? My father, the last thing he wanted to do was to be put in a nursing home. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to keep his independence as long as he could. He exercised way before it was really cool. He was an ACC football official for 30 years, so he had started doing exercise long before people didn't even talk about it back when. People thought he was kind of strange because he used to run up and down our driveway. What's your dad doing? He's exercising. But as later on in life, he wanted to make sure that he didn't burden us, his children. He wanted to be independent. So I think his exercise and doing his strength training, his exercise, really kept it. And he was independent till the day he died. We helped him. We kind of made his food for him so he could heat it up himself and did other things to help him keep independent. But if you can do your activity, keep your strength going, keep your flexibility, your balance, try to do these things, even on a very minimal scale, it can help you to keep your independence. And I think that's really, really important. I think a lot of you think it's important too. You probably know somebody that does. So these are the benefits we can get. You can't get this from a bottle. You can't do all these things by just taking a pill. We have to put a little effort in, but it will happen. Not the first day you do it, not the first week you do it, not even the first 2 weeks you do it. You got to give it a chance. So start where you are and give it a chance. Now, how do we do that? I've kind of classified people as inactive and active, and I know there's some tweeners as well. If right now, let's say you classify yourself in the back of your mind, I'm not doing very much. How do I get started? Remember that level 3 out of 4? The guy smiling, that's the rate of perceived exertion. You feel good, you can talk, you really don't feel like you're doing a whole lot. If you're not doing much, that's where you start with your activity, the 3 to 4 out of 10. You perform your activity in short bouts. I know it says to do at least 10 bouts up there. That was what the guidelines were. But you can start with 3 to 4 minutes, a couple of times a day. Work your way up to 10 minutes a couple of times a day. Start putting those times together. You're still doing 3 or 4. I want you to keep that there until you meet the goal that you have for the time that you want to do your activity. And then once you reach the time, then maybe you can increase the intensity that you do. You never have to be to where your tongue's hanging out and you're falling out. But you can increase your intensity to where you feel like you're up there at the 5 or 6, where you can still walk and talk, but you can't sing. They say that if you're not doing anything at all right now and you start adding some physical activity to your life, with as little as 60 minutes of activity per week, you can start seeing health benefits. So you do get a little bit of reward before you can reach those goals. But I don't want you to stop when you get to the 60. You try to do a little bit more if possible. If you're already active and you're doing the 150 minutes, even if you're doing the 300 minutes, and you're not meeting your goals, then that's you need to kind of do a little bit of self-evaluation. Do you need to do a little bit more variety with your activity? Do you need to add some strength training? Do you need to add some flexibility? Do you need to add some balance? Variety is not only the spice of life, it keeps you from getting injured. Once your body gets used to your activity, if you're doing the same thing day in and day out, it can be that you need to kind of trick your body into thinking you're doing a little bit more by doing a different activity. And sometimes it adds a little more excitement to what you're doing too, instead of doing the same thing day in, day out. Add a little variety. Incorporate a little upper body exercise if you're only doing some lower body exercise. Try to do something that's a little bit different. How much is enough? If you're a very active person, do I have to keep going? I'm already doing my 300 minutes of vigorous exercise. When do I stop? What are your goals? It's personal. What are you trying to do? So if you're genuinely trying to maybe run a race, then maybe you do need to do a little bit more. But if you're trying to just gain the health benefits, okay, I've controlled my blood pressure, my cholesterol's good, I feel good at the weight where I am. You don't have to be real thin to be healthy. You just need to feel good at the weight where you are, and you don't have other health benefits, then just keep on keeping on. If you're there, spread the love. Help somebody else. Don't take somebody that's not active to your spin class, though. Try to get them to do a little more physical activity. Go out and walk the dog. Join me walking the dog. Let's go do this. Go watch, go watch Coach Hatchell's game tomorrow. Stand up and clap every now and then. Stand up and cheer. That's good physical activity. So take somebody under your wing. Take some of the information that maybe you got today. You don't have to tell, they don't have to do what you're doing, but try to get them more active, because it really is a very social thing and it's a lot of fun to do. And it's amazing what you can do to help somebody else. Now I know there are going to be some tweeners here where you're beyond the inactive people and you're really not quite up to the hugely active folks, and you might be there for a couple of different reasons. If you used to be inactive and you've already started exercising, or you've been doing your exercise, but you're kind of on that middle of the road level, not quite to the 150, just keep on going. Do what you can. There's also going to be some folks that are physically active that for some reason they have stopped being active, and they're in between now. They're tweeners. Start where you are. If there's a reason that you've stopped exercising, if it's, let's say, you had a family member that you had to start taking care of, so the time constraints were a little bit more, so you kind of threw into that. You might have had some type of surgery where you were in bed or had to reduce your activity for a little while. You might have even had a heart event. That's okay. Start where you are. You're not going to start way up at the activity level where you were before you were. Let's stop thinking of where you were. Start where you are. Who should exercise? Everybody. The CDC, the Department of Health and Human Services, Coach Hatchell, they say that everybody should exercise, and that's true. It's the best thing you can do for your health is to start being either a little bit more physically active and start into the exercise, or continue what you're doing. It really is one of the best things you can do for yourself. Starting at age 6, wouldn't it be great if anybody that was 6 years and over had started their activity early on? Of course, I'd probably be out of a job. But if they did, it would be we'd have a very healthy group of people. We'd all still look different. We all still need to be different about what we do. But it would be wonderful if we'd start everybody that early. Goal settings. You need to set your own goals. Everybody in here is different. Be as physically active as you can with whatever condition you have and whatever your abilities are. Everybody is different. So think positive, like Coach Hatchell says. Try to be positive. Don't say, I can't do this, I can't do that. Give me a laundry list of things that you can't do. Start today and thinking of something that you can do. What can you do? Can you sit down, if you're at the bare bones, can you sit in a chair and just move your legs a little bit more? Can you take a light weight or a band or a tubing and do a little bit of activity like Coach Hatchell was doing in the hospital? There might be a time where you have some kind of chronic condition. It might be new to you. It might be old to you. You might need to talk to your healthcare provider about how you can incorporate your physical activity and exercise with this chronic condition. There's several things that, like, for instance, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, even just any kind of vascular disease, medications. If you've had surgery of any kind recently, even cancer patients after they've done their treatments, there's certain things that you have to keep in mind for safety. I don't know that I could tell you all of you can go to cardiac rehab. Of course, I have to, kind of get a little plug in there for that program. But what that is healthcare providers that are helping you try to deal with your chronic condition that might be new, it might be old. What happened to me? Why did this happen? How do I get started from here? Once again, start where you are. So whatever it is, you have it. If you need some kind of healthcare professional advice, if you've never exercised in your life and your doctor has never said to you, you need to exercise, talk to them. I'd like to exercise. Do I need to think of anything different besides go ahead and just get going with the regular physical activity or the guidelines that I gave you? If they've always said to you, you need to start exercising, then get started. Get on the move. Just get going. Don't let anything get in your way with that. Incorporate all those strength training, flexibility, balance exercises, aerobic exercises. Just get moving with that. We talked about the exercise guidelines. The 150 minutes or the 300 minutes. whatever, that's the guidelines for exercise. Now, physical activity, that's what we were talking about, the changer, that's it. Going to the refrigerator, getting something, that's physical activity. We just want people to move more. Sitting is the new smoking. Have you heard that yet? We did a great job with trying to not allow people to smoke by saying that you couldn't smoke in restaurants anymore. A lot of workplaces don't allow smoking. So if you worked there, you really couldn't smoke anymore. You had to quit. We did a good job trying to reduce the number of people that smoke cigarettes. And now, what we're doing is saying, well, sitting is the new smoking. So what we're trying to do, what I tell folks to do when they're kind of trying to evaluate how active they are or inactive they are, or kind of put numbers to it, count how many, try to time yourself as how many minutes you actually sit in your waking day. So try to figure out what percentage of your day, your waking day, that you're sitting. If it's a pretty high percentage, you might need to change that a little bit. And so I'll talk about that in just a minute. I have 2 slides of ways you can try to sit less. If you're inactive, if you find out that 70% of your day you're sitting, you need to gradually get back into that physical activity where you can do a little bit more, and you might fool yourself into actually starting to exercise. You find out it's not that bad, so we'll give it a try. Those that are already active in exercise, if you go to the gym every morning and you do an hour and a half, 2 hours of really big exercise, but you sit the rest of the day, the research has shown that you're doing 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and some research is showing you're doing 1 step forward and 1 step back. I have talked to people before and they say, well, what am I supposed to do? Just all day long, just move around, just never sit down, I get tired. There's nothing wrong with a nap. That's going to be like, I'm talking about like a 20, 30, 40-minute nap. I would do a nap. I would take a nap every day if I could. And any day that I can, I do. I love it. I love to take a nap. There's some people, I'm not a nap person, I can't do it. How do you do this? You got to evaluate yourself, you have to make a plan, and you have to execute. So it's very important. That's what Coach Hatchell's talking about, that. You got to make a plan, you got to execute your plan. Set a realistic goal. Don't say, I need to lose 100 pounds. That's not realistic right now. So do more of a small goal where I have to lose 3 pounds and 2 pounds. And once you meet that goal, I'm going to lose 3, 4, that way. I'm not going to go run a marathon if I'm not doing anything. Or I want to look like that skater that just skated on the Olympics. I want to have a body like that. Yeah, I do too, but it's not going to happen. So be realistic about the goals that you set. If you're not doing any exercise, set that 10-minute goal once or twice a day and move from there. So make sure you set realistic goals just so you don't sabotage yourself. And that's the next one. Make a plan, write it down, because that means you really mean it, and tell somebody, but tell someone that's positive. Do not tell the person that always said, yeah, you've tried that 3 or 4 times. How many times are you going to try that? That's a clicker person. That's a clicker person. Talk to a positive person. If you don't have a positive person in your life, get some new friends. Because you can do it. You really can. You can go from any level to more. Motivation. We all need some sort of motivation, but it's all different. If you're a person that needs to tell friends and family so that they'll say, hey, how you doing with this? On a positive note. Did you do your exercise today? Did you get along okay? Do you need some help with that? Get somebody to go with you to exercise. So if you're not really feeling like doing it that day, if you're like, yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to do this, it's too cold. That other person say, come on, well, let's go. We got to get going so you can do this. Or if you're a person that likes to keep to yourself, that's okay too. Keep a calendar. There's some apps that you can fill out, and Judy will talk about some of the apps. I think probably anyway, there are several apps that you can kind of keep up with your activity on your own. So if that's the kind of person you are, that's fine. But just make sure, just find yourself and get moving. Don't let anything stop you. Don't let your plan stop you. Some people just have to plan and plan and plan and plan. They never get going with it. You got to get going with this plan. It's really, really important. How can I add physical activity to my everyday life? You've heard this, park further from your destination. How many years have you been hearing this? And how many times do you go somewhere and people are fighting for the closest parking spot in the parking lot? No matter where, even at Metamont in the Wellness Center. You're going to exercise. Walk around the grocery store or the mall before you do your activity. Do some recon. See what's on sale. Get the best buys. Or if you're not going to buy, the malls are great places, and the big department stores, leave your wallet behind or put it in the trunk. But walk around. Before you do your shopping. Carry shopping items in the house one at a time. Have you guys seen that commercial where the couple opens up the back of their car and all these groceries and the guy goes, "It's mine." Dive in. He's like walking with everything like that. I do the same thing until I start, planning for this talk. Take bags in one at a time. If you if you can do that, you're doing a little extra physical activity. If that's something you can do, do it. When we're sitting here, sit up straight, nice and tall. It takes more muscle, it takes more energy to do that than it does to sit like this. So you're doing something while you're sitting. Sit up nice and tall, pull in, get that core strong, do something while you're sitting. Walk, if you're at work, walk to see your workmates. What do? We pick up the phone, we text, we do everything else. Walk to see them if you can, even if they're on the phone or whatever. Stand-up desk if you can, they're kind of expensive. Do housework. Even if you get somebody to do your own housework, even if you don't have a house, if you have an apartment, take a room at a time, stretch way up, do something, bend down. You'll be surprised what you can find under your couch if you look. Practice getting on and off the floor. If you fall, have a plan if you're by yourself. When you're practicing, if you haven't done it in a while, make sure somebody's with you. I taught my mom, who had bad knees and bad hips, to crawl hands and knees to where she got to a chair to where she could safely stand up. There are a lot of people that haven't gotten off the floor in years. If you're by yourself, make a plan, get somebody to help you out, practice getting up on the floor. Stairs and steps, do them. One step up, one back, 2 steps up, one back, whatever you have to do. If there's steps, if you can do them, do them. A couple other things. Walk the dog. You don't have a dog? Call the SPCA. See if you can walk the dog for them. Include activity in your vacation. I know you're supposed to be relaxing on the vacation, but that doesn't mean that it's undermining your activity. When you got your program going, you went on vacation, you started kind of doing nothing, and then you come back and you're doing nothing again. You got to start all over again. Plan a vacation. Almost every hotel now has some form of activities, either outside, inside, some gymnasiums. Walk. You can bicycle. There's a lot of things you can do. Plan it before you go. Take the children, grandchildren, neighbors' children. Make sure you know them. Don't take them if they don't know them. If they go play somewhere, walk around the field where they're playing, or at least stand up and move around and cheer for them. That's why I was saying go to the game tomorrow. Stand up and cheer. That's a lot more active than just sitting. Take them to the park. Take walks before dinner, just a short walk, 5-10 minute walk. Garden, mow, weed, include your family, things like that. Activities like that. You have your favorite TV show? Did you see Coach Hatchell doing the bands and things like that? Put that band by your chair on your favorite TV show. Start doing some exercises. Do these while you're watching. Stand up every now and then. Stretch. But do something. Practice your balance. You can go, do your thing. Practice something while you're watching TV. It doesn't mean you can't ever watch TV or ever rest. But get up and do something during those times, or try to keep moving a little bit more. My favorite is turn on the music. Sashay, sway, wiggle, jiggle, and giggle. That's the best thing you can do. If nobody's around, turn on the music if you like to dance. Dance, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you look like. Sometimes that's a lot of fun. It adds some energy there. The difference between try and triumph is a little That's one of my favorite, and I don't even know who said it. But you've got to try and put some energy into your plan, into your execution. Did you really try? So put a little ump into it, because you really can do it. You can do it. You got to do it on your own level. Arthur Ashe, one of my favorite folks. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And that's really, really important, because you're all different. Everybody has different goals. There's different ways to do it. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
There's a myth going round town that when you get older you just sit down and start rocking. Just rocking. In a way that's true, if you know what I mean. Just take a look at the senior scene. Well, it's rocking. Yeah, it's rocking. We're pulling our weight learning the code, clicking our heels, sharing the load.